Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the 3 new vehicles that we are going to be getting at some point in the future that were given to us with the Finance of Felony update but haven't been released yet. I'm not one for speculation videos, and I hate the fact that, you know, there are these 3 cars that have been leaked. I'd rather just Rockstar pushed another update, really, if they're planning to do new cars, and stop doing it like this. But I'm not one for speculation videos, but people keep asking me, you know, have you seen these new cars? Have you seen the Prototipo? It's going to kill the supercars class, and just all this speculation in general. And my goal with this video is to kind of just, you know, put a lid on it a little bit and just try to get everybody to just calm down and not worry so much, because they haven't arrived yet. You know, we don't have them. We don't know anything about them. So for those of you who are unaware, and I imagine if you don't watch the speculative YouTube videos and YouTubers who you know cover this stuff with 15,000 videos, if you don't watch those, you might not be aware of these. But basically, in the same way that Rockstar introduced the minivan custom and the Sabre Turbo custom with the Lowriders update, those were downloaded and introduced to the game files with the original Lowriders update, but they only released 4 of those cars, and then later on down the line they released the new ones. So they are in the game, the cars were in the game, and they were just on a timed release. Now with the Finance and Felony update, they've done the same thing with 3. I suspect one of them is going to be a sports car and 2 supercars. So everybody's, you know, really excited about this, because everybody loves supercars, everybody loves sports cars, and obviously hidden sports cars, it just builds up all this speculation and all this hype, obviously from these big YouTubers and people in the community who can go into the game files and look at the code and show pictures of these vehicles, and I'll try to do the same on the screen now. And they do look cool, you know, they look really good, but I'm not going to start worrying about their performance before they even get here. Having said that, I have looked at the handling statistics for the cars. Now, if you want to look at the spreadsheet that I obviously keep updating, you can do that. The link will be in the description, and I've talked about this in previous videos. You're welcome to, you know, check those out. It explains all about the game code and the handling statistics, the handling files, and what actually goes into car performance. And you know, I've covered this so much, but anybody who's new to the channel, I would certainly recommend watching those videos. Now, out of the 3 cars, 2 of them are pretty much standard. So you've got the 770, which is probably going to be a sports car. That just looks like a standard sports car. And the 811, the Pfister 811, which is obviously based on the Porsche 918. When you look at the handling statistics of that, it looks very similar to the other supercars. You know, it looks well balanced. One of the defining characteristics of the supercars recently, in terms of how well balanced they've been, is that they have very specific values for certain things. For example, max speed values of 159.3 miles per hour instead of just 159, a 0.356 engine power rather than just, you know, 0.35. They've always had that aspect to them to be well balanced in that respect, and the 811 looks to be exactly the same as that. It seems to have very similar stats to the other supercars, and it's probably going to be in that top 7 pack that we already have at the moment. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about with these values, engine power or drag coefficient or anything like that, again, you know, watch the fact-finding series on this channel. That explains everything, and I will leave some informative videos down in the description. But the one that's got everybody talking is the Prototipo, and the reason for this is because it appears to have better stats in every aspect to the T20. Now, looking at it, you know, I can't disagree with that. The stats that it has are absolutely unbelievable. This thing is going to accelerate like nothing else in the game. The upshift rate for the gears is higher than anything else in the game. The engine power is higher than anything else in the game, save for the Liberator and the Akuma, in terms of the raw acceleration for engine power. It has a lower drag coefficient than the T20. It has a higher maximum velocity value, which doesn't necessarily mean it has a higher top speed, as we've seen again in previous videos, but you know, that value is higher, and it's actually the highest maximum velocity value that we've seen, even higher than the adders. But again, you know, remember that doesn't necessarily mean it does have the highest top speed. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. You know, it appears to be absolutely, it's going to be the quickest supercar, and it's going to completely dominate the class. If you just look at the stats as they are, that is what you would suggest would happen. So it's a worry, because the supercars class at the moment has 7 very, very well balanced cars at the top of it. It looks like it's going to be 8 with the 811, and it's probably the most balanced class in the game, and one of the only ones that we've got left from a racing perspective that is well balanced, and you can use a variety of supercars and still do well. So it is a worry from that perspective, but the problem is that stats never ever tell the full story, and you can look at the stats all you want, but until you get the vehicle, until you take it onto a track, take it out there and see what it's like, you just do not know what it's going to do. For example, the grip of the traction stat of the Prototipo is exactly the same as the FMJ, which is actually less than the Entity. The Entity still has the highest levels of traction in the game, but the FMJ is quicker around a track than the Entity because it has better engine power. So although the Prototipo has higher values than the T20 on a lot of aspects, there's a lot of other aspects that go into car performance that you don't necessarily see, and it's impossible to look at the stats before you get the car, and that's the problem with all this speculation and everybody being very sort of doomsday about it all and saying that it's definitely going to be a lot quicker. The problem is that you just do not know. You don't know that that's going to be the case. One of the prime examples of this, one of the prime reasons why it might not be the top supercar, is because it may not have a spoiler upgrade. If you've seen the footage from the Prototipo, it looks like it's got flaps on the back of it. Now, whether those flaps actually do anything in terms of adding traction, I don't know. We don't know because we don't have the car. Unlike the T20, it has that active spoiler which does have an effect. I've covered that before. It acts like a spoiler. The flaps on the back of the Prototipo, they may not actually do anything to increase performance. And the way that the back of that car is shaped, I would imagine that there are going to be no spoiler modifications in Los Santos Customs. So if that's the case, the Prototipo is going to have a significant traction deficit to a lot of the other supercars. If it can't have a spoiler modification like the other supercars, it's going to have a traction deficit, and it's going to be a lot slower on the corners, and the overpoweredness of the engine and its acceleration could just be a balancing in that respect. So it's not as good in the corners, but it's going to be well balanced over a standard track because they've balanced it well. And the supercars class is the only class where Rockstar have actually done good balancing with the top supercars. So there's that possibility there that we're still going to have that. So that might be one of the reasons why it isn't OP, but it's impossible to know until you get the car and until you drive it. It's impossible to know, and you just can't tell from the stats. Another thing that may not, it may be a reason why it's not the quickest, is because the modifications to cars, the engine upgrades and the turbo and things like that, they have different values, they have different levels. A prime example of this is the Sentinel and the Sentinel Sentinel XS, sorry. The Sentinel and the Sentinel XS are exactly the same in their stock forms, but when you fully upgrade them, the Sentinel XS is much quicker, and the reason for that is that it gets a much higher value for its engine upgrade. So when you put the engine on the Sentinel XS, you get more of a boost than when you put the engine on the regular Sentinel. That could be the same here. The engine upgrade for the Prototipo might not give you as much of a boost as the T20 or some of the other supercars. So there's so much that goes into this that it's just impossible to say now, and it's impossible to speculate that the Prototipo is going to be a supercars class ruiner. It might not. It very possibly will be, and if it is, the rant will be biblical, because we've never had a class ruined quite like this before. But at the moment, don't worry about it. And we don't have the cars. We don't have access to the cars. We're not going to have access to the cars until Rockstar decide that we can have access to the cars. So, why speculate? Why worry about it? Why try to focus all our attention on cars that we don't have and we can't have when we've got lots of new cars, and especially 2 brand new supercars that are very well balanced. Start using those, you know. And it's just frustrating to see that you know, we get some brand new supercars that are well balanced and everybody's too busy worrying about the cars that we don't have. And that's why I don't like speculation videos. That's why I don't like that. I always talk about things after we've got the vehicles. You know, there will be an analysis video for the Finance and Felony update. Obviously the top speed testing will happen before that as well, but you know, it's just not my style to make this kind of speculation video, and I guess this video in particular is more to counteract the speculation and the hype than anything else. But yeah, you know, the Prototipo, it could be the new quickest supercar in the game by a long way. It's very possible, but we just don't know. There's so many other factors that may make it just equally as well balanced as all of the other recent supercars that we've seen. You know, it's just, don't worry about it now. We don't have the car. If it turns out to be the quickest supercar in the game, then we'll deal with it then. But you know, there's no need to worry about it now. So that's all I really wanted to say in this video. Again, I'll leave a lot of information down in the description, a lot of links that will help you if you are new to the channel and you haven't seen any of this before or don't understand the inner workings of vehicles. I've done a lot to talk about that and inform people about how the handling stats actually go to, you know, determine car performance. But yeah, I'll leave a lot of links down in the description. But yeah, I just wanted to make this quick video because yeah, I hate the speculation of it all, and people are always contacting me about it. You know, just don't worry about it. We'll see what happens when we get it, and we don't know when we're going to get it. So let's just focus on the vehicles that we do have. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all the support as always, and I'll see you next time.